What's up guys, Rab here from Rabtastic Paints, and in today's video I'm going to show you how I made my Paths of the Dead diorama. Now you'll notice we've got a different camera angle today. There's two reasons for that. One, wanted to do things a little bit differently, and I got a nice new webcam, so I thought I'd show off. And two, the diorama actually becomes so large that the overhead camera doesn't fit it. That being said though, there will be some footage of the overhead camera because it gives some better details of some of the intricate work that I'm doing. So as this display board was so much bigger than my regular ones, I actually had to use two of the MDF boards that I usually use and glue them onto some foam before weighing them down with the holy tomes of the rulebooks. Now I left this for a few hours to set before I came back with the secret ingredient for this project, polystyrene cubes. Now I had bought a lot of these, and the idea for me was it'd be a lot easier to make small cubes look like rocks than one big piece of foam. And I guess it worked. I guess you'll have to see, you have to wait till the end of the video. But yeah, these are really workable, really messy, but I think I've hoovered the floor like 5 times over the course of this video. The next challenge was then deciding how it was going to look, like how tall was it going to be, how many blocks I was going to need, and just basically building a shape on the board of what it was going to look like. Now the centrepiece of this model was a very large doorway which I had blown up by about 300% to make into a big imposing door, very much like the scene from the movies. Now I use a lot of 3D printed files for this design. They were all open forged designs, so they're used for D&D and they're tiles that click together, but they scale pretty well for 28mm MESBG stuff, so I used a lot of those and they didn't cost me anything. Now I ended up printing off a bunch of these files, some walls, some windows, some pillars, and a couple of little statues just to give the place some flavour. More than I needed to, but I wanted to be able to play around and see where things would go, and that's what I spent a lot of the time in this project doing, was visualising how I wanted it to look. With an idea firmly in my head, I had to create one large block at the back to hold it all together, so I used a mixture of toothpicks and polystyrene glue to stick all these cubes together. Probably worth noting that I also used a hot wire to cut the doorway as well as a window frame into the foam as well. Next up was attaching of the 3D printed parts that I'd made, and I used a hot glue gun for this because it was just the quickest and easiest way of doing it really. Super glue is great, but not at this sort of scale and this weight. I stuck the window in place using a lot of hot glue as well as some Milliput to fill all the gaps from my erratic hot wire cutting, and then gave the doorway a little ledge as well. With all that done, we could finally mount the back wall onto the board and start giving the whole structure a little bit of stability. It was no longer in lots of different small parts, it was all starting to come together as one large diorama. Now this is where it started to get really messy. I was having to cut up a lot of the polystyrene cubes to make into the rock face that the doorway sits in. Wasn't actually that difficult, I'm just complaining because I had to hoover so much. But I took my craft knife and started chopping away all of the unnatural looking edges of the cube until it started to look a lot more rounded and a lot more broken, like a cliff face would. Now, as good as it looked, in my humble opinion anyway, it still looked very unnatural. Polystyrene is good, but it's not great, and there were very obvious gaps from where all the cubes joined, so I rolled out some DAS air drying clay to fill in these gaps and just add a little bit more texture to the overall rockiness of it. That makes sense, yeah. Now, if you couldn't tell by the t-shirt change, I left it overnight to really set. Air drying clay does take about 24 hours, but it was pretty warm that day, so it dried pretty easily. I came back and applied modelling compound over the entire thing as well, just to really ramp up that natural look. Once that was dry, it was time for my favourite part of any project, the black paint and Mod Podge part. If you've seen Black Magic Craft, you'll know what this is. It's PVA glue, black paint, and sometimes a little bit of water if you want it to run, and you cover all of the foam in this. It gives it an extra layer of protection, and it allows you to spray paint the foam without it melting as well. Now this was given a full 24 hours to dry, and once it had dried, it looked a little bit like this. That is the face of a man who is on day 3 of a project and still doesn't know if it's going to look any good. The next part was just dry brushing. All of the stonework got a dry brush up through various colours of grey up to white. The ground got a little bit more brown mixed in. I know it's all stone, but I wanted it to look different, so I gave it like some muddy texture as well. Now it wouldn't be a Rabtastic Paints diorama without some LED lighting or a resin pour, but there's no resin pour in this one unfortunately, but we did do some LEDs. I wanted to give sort of a soft green ghostly glow through the door and the windows, so we mounted an LED strip inside the doorway and attached it to the top of the board. Now we only really needed one more thing to complete that iconic scene from the movie. A lot of skulls. I bought 2 boxes of the Citadel skulls from Games Workshop, which is more than most stores have ever sold. Never mind just a single person. Clipped them all out painstakingly and painting them with a white spray paint, and then a quick slap of some skeleton horde, and I think some sepia as well, because I didn't want to use all of my good contrast paint. So yeah, I had to paint up like 200 skulls for this, which is ridiculous. Once all of the skulls were dry, I took a bottle of clear PVA glue and poured it in the doorway and then down the stairs leading down towards the bottom of the diorama, before sprinkling all of the skulls down the stairway and pushing them in place to make sure they stick, and then leaving it to set. Now whilst I show off the final result, I just want to say a huge thank you to my Patreons. This diorama build is for you guys, because I'll be using it at a future tournament to show off my grey company called the Greytreon Company, and all of the models are named after one of my Patreons, and I'll track all of your skills and incredible deeds and I'll report back to you when we come back from it. But yeah, thanks for watching guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll catch you in the next one.